Hey Riley besties, welcome back to the Writing with Annie new podcast. We'll talk about all the things writing. Love I love my intro. That just like makes my day all the time. But today I'm really excited to be talking about all my books, all my projects that I am currently writing, and I'm going to be going through 7 of my books, spilling the tea about the plots, the characters, what's going on in those books and where I'm at with drafting them. So I actually have a list of 7 books that I'm going to be talking about today, and they're all in these different sorts of stages in the drafting process. So I'm going to be chatting a little bit more about that and also just about my books. And a lot of you guys seem to really like these videos. I love making them because they're just so fun. I love hearing about people's ideas, people's plots, people's characters, and how that really does it just inspires me so much. So I'm really excited to get into this episode, and let's go ahead and just get straight into it. Okay, so first, draft 0. I'm going to be starting off with the draft 0 books. And if you guys don't know, my draft 0s are basically books that I'm writing. It's like writing the full book, start to finish, but in short sentences in a way. And it's kind of like a very chill sort of writing like the first draft. So it's like a 0 draft. That's why I call it 0 draft. But Project Orchestra is the first draft that I'm writing. This technically is going to be switched to draft 1, but since I haven't started technically writing draft 1 yet, I'm still going to keep it in the draft 0 column. So I've talked about Project O in a lot of my episodes, I think 2 episodes before, and I just recently finished the 0 draft like a couple weeks ago, and I did an episode on that, so definitely go check that out. But Project Orchestra, that's where I'm at. I've just finished the 0 draft and I adore this story so much. It basically takes place in 1800s London, where a conductor, who's a conductor of like an orchestra, a very prestigious orchestra academy, musical academy in London, and this man, conductor, comes across a busking violinist who's actually a runaway from home, and they kind of meet, and that's kind of like the inciting incident of the book, and it's literally so fun. Alex and Lewis, the 2 main characters. So Alex is the conductor, the musical conductor, and Lewis is the violinist who is busking on the streets, in which they meet. And it's kind of a story literally about artists finding their muses, artists in the world, and like it's so hard to describe, but it's literally a story for artists and for writers and for musicians and for anyone who adores art. And it just kind of talks through the struggle of that and how art, slaps reality in the face and vice versa. It's kind of hard to describe. But Project O is definitely a book that I struggle to write because it is a historical fiction, so it's a bit different in that respect, where I'm usually writing either fantasy or like contemporary, more urban sort of stuff. So this was definitely a struggle. I adore it though. I think I didn't realize how much I love this story, and though it took me a long time to write, I think just like finding the little tiny scenes in this book really does make it. And I think that's also something that I've realized in all of my books, where there's these small little scenes that literally make the book. It makes the book. And there's a really cool sort of quote that I had, and I shared it on my Instagram, and it's something like that Alexander says, who's the musical conductor, and he says, like, if you say I'm an angel, then I have fallen so deeply my wings have forsaken me. And those sorts of things like really do grasp me. So Project O is such a strong novel about just like the it's just so hard to describe, and that's why I love it so much. Like, it was so fun, and also really fun to actually kind of write a book with music in it. So there's so many musical scenes where they're conducting, and they're actually doing like a whole like rehearsal, and I need to describe that in words. And that was really challenging, but I feel like I found my way through it, and it was just such a fun book. So I wish I could talk about it more, but if you want to just hear all the spiels or the characters, definitely go check out my other podcasts, because I want more time for my other books, because I talk about Project O way too much. Let's move on to project.cz, which is in my 0 draft column. And this book I actually am so excited to start writing. I'm going to start writing it as soon as I finish Project BB, which is in the first draft column, but I'm not going to talk about that yet. So Project CZ stands for City of Zeal, and it's kind of a high fantasy book. I have just kind of shelved that book for a while. It's been in my mind for ages, like years, and this book is definitely the book of my heart that I don't think when I started to write it like 2 years ago, like a year ago or something, year and a half, I didn't think I had the actual, writing skills to write this high fantasy book. And I think now I might have that sort of approach, and I'll be able to kind of dive into it more smartly. I don't know. I think I just got way too over my head with writing this book, firstly, but I think now with all the skills that I have and my approach to like zero drafts, I think I can definitely write this book. And it's definitely a high fantasy, so therefore it's going to need a lot of plot, a lot of character development. And because there's so many characters in this book who I love so much, one of my first writing videos is actually a video where I talk about all of my characters from Project CZ. And Project CZ, let's talk about the actual story. So City of Zeal, it starts in a city, which is kind of like the world in between worlds. And it's just a gold encrusted, beautiful city where there's like, it belonged to a dead god, basically. And in it's sort of, so it's like a city, and then sort of like in these little streets, there's like 4 little streets, very mythical, very cool. There's these portals within these streets that actually lead to different worlds, or at least in the book I call them like worlds. It's really weird. It's just like WRELDS, worlds. So I don't know why I changed that, but it's stuck. Okay, so there's like portals to the human world, the elven world, archangels. There's like trolls. There's like a sea sort of world where there's all these amazing sea creatures and these pirates, and every single other like species kind of like infiltrates others. And sort of the premise of the story is where this character called Dell ends up kind of going home one night from her high school high school graduation, and her best friend Steele ends up kind of getting stolen, and like someone like kidnaps him and throws him through a portal, and the main character's like, okay, I gotta go save him, basically. And it's kind of like a weird thing where like you don't know what you're doing or like how to act, and she just goes, and that's kind of like where the story starts. But her best friend is not who she thought he is, and it's sort of like basically revolves around Dell. She ends up meeting inside the city when she passes through the portal. She goes into the city and she's almost attacked. And then basically what happens is she gets saved by this guy called Avon. And he's actually like a leader to these like rebel group of orphans who try to save children of war. And Dell kind of convinces them to help them find her best friend because, he got caught up in all this. So that's kind of like the story, and it's kind of revealed that Dell is not who she thought she is, and there's like a big prophecy. So it's like a lot of like this like chosen one, prophecy, fantasy. There's like in the rebel group of orphans, they're all orphans of war. There's like an archangel, there's like a wolf slash angel, which is like a werewolf slash angel. There's a cute little kind of reminds me of Magnus. What's his name? What's a warlock. There's a warlock, and there's also a cyclops who's like the mother of that sort of group, who takes care of them and the orphanage and stuff like that. So like, I love it. I love it. And there's also a pixie. There's always a pixie who just reminds me of Peter Pan. He has so much pixie energy, and also violent energy from Six of Crows. Like he always has all these like explosives on him. To use in battle, obviously. But that's Project CZ. I probably spilled a lot too much about that book, but that's kind of like the premise. That's what's going on, and I'm just really excited to get into the book, the plot, and I do hope it to be a duology. So hopefully I'll have a lot of vlogs about CZ, Project CZ, in the future. So I'm gonna get into my fantasy vibe during the next half of this year. So that's awesome. Okay, next draft for draft 0 is Project Inventors. Project I haven't talked about this book in ages. I definitely started to write the first draft, but it's still going. I haven't had the time to really delve into this project yet, but I still wanted to include it on this list. And Project I is such a good book. I think it definitely did motivated me to write Project Orchestra, because Project O is very similar to Project I in terms of like the setting. I think I just needed to like get it out of my system to write like a really cool, um, 1800s London-esque sort of story. But Project I kind of follows more of a time traveling vibe, where it follows these two inventors who basically are kind of like well-known inventors. And I think honestly that's why I got Alex. Like Alex kind of switched characters. Like I think Alexander was a character in Project I, but then somehow he just ran away to Project O. So like Alexander in Project I is exactly like Alexander from Project O. He's like a brooding guy, and I think he invented the steam engine or something. And then there's also another character called Keys, I think, who's from the Netherlands, who I think invented like the telegram or something like that. Like they're really well known, and they end up meeting at like this huge event where they give awards to all these cool inventors. But then they end up kind of getting involved in this incident, and this mysterious man kind of comes up to them in a room, because they're actually the ones who like won the award joint. So it's kind of cool. And they're so opposite. Like Keys and Alexander are so opposite people. Keys is like this fluffy guy, and he's like so young too. Like Sunshine and like Moon character. Yeah, that's Project I. And basically they're kind of tasked with the tasked to kind of track down this clockmaker who has kind of warped time, and they kind of need to reverse it. Kind of reminds me of the and reverse it from Willy Wonka. Anyways, that's kind of like the story, and I don't know what the plot is yet, so I don't have too much to say, but I have the vibes. The vibes are definitely there. I want it to be so fun, so funky, so like interesting, but I kind of want the story to kind of follow this idea of these inventors trying to de-invent something, and how like they're the two who are up to the job, and like it's like their banner is also so fun. I think I wanted a thing to be like they love riddles, and I think Keys kind of pretended that he was really bad at riddles, and then Alexander, or maybe vice versa, where like Alexander would tell him a riddle, but Keys would be like, I don't know, he would be like an airhead. And then there comes a time in the book where like they need to solve this sort of riddle, and Keys like gets it straight away, and Alex is like, what? Can I have a second? Just like stupid cute things like that. Like that is Project I. So I really want to write that so bad. Anyways, let's move on to draft one. My draft one column, we have a Project Prison. Oh my gosh, we have been talking about a lot of books. Project Prison. Oh my gosh, I was explaining this to like someone yesterday or the day before, and I explain stories really bad, but Project Prison is like one of it's like a very punchy, like a heart punch to the gut. Yeah, punch to the gut sort of story, where I think I've explained it a couple of times, but it basically follows these two characters in juvie, in a juvenile center, and they kind of meet in their cell one day when they kind of like appointed cellmates, and they kind of get to know each other, and then it's kind of revealed that they both don't know why they got convicted, why they're in juvie, and then it kind of escalates to a point where they realize that their cases are linked, and then they try to escape juvie. But it's a lot more depressing than that. It's not fun. It's not fun. And kind of like a detail that I don't think I've really shared, but with Project Prison, it's like a boy juvie, right? So there's like all these guys. But there's the character who comes into the cell with the other character who's a guy. So Kyo is the character who actually historically he would not ever get a cellmate, because he was actually kind of like violent, and he was required not to have a cellmate until like I don't know, something like with the cells. Anyways, he ends up getting a cellmate, but that cellmate ends up being actually a girl, and she has her hair chopped. She has a very flat chest. You know, she doesn't look like a girl until he knows. And it's like the sort of the authorities, like the watchers, like they know that she's a girl, and Kyo kind of tries to protect her from all the other boys who kind of just overlook the fact that there is a girl in this boy juvie. And it's kind of again, their cases are kind of linked, and it's kind of revealed that the girl Jodie, she has a twin brother, and it's kind of like, is she in prison for his wrongdoing? What's going on there? Like, why is she here? If they know that she's a girl, like, why do they keep her here? What's up with that? So this is like a very good project because I see the plot. It's very clear. Things make sense. Unlike Project I, where I have no idea. But since I finished the zero draft, I'm working on the project, my first draft right now. And I love this book so much because Kyo and Jodie, the two main characters, Jodie's the girl, Kyo is the kind of violent guy. Kyo always kind of describes Jodie as a bird, as like a, and there's like a, I think I shared this in one of my podcasts before where I talk about, the actual, what's the word? The quotes from my book, my favorite quotes from my book. So if you guys want to check out like the quote from Project Prison that I'm talking about the bird, go check out that podcast, please. But yeah, I love Project Prison so much. Okay, next draft, Project Blackbirds. This book is actually one that I hope to maybe be my debut novel. It's a fantasy. This was the first book that I basically shared on my channel when I started to make writing videos like 2 years ago. So Project Blackbirds, I've been writing for a couple of years and I'm nearly done. This is the book I need to finish this year. It's the last freaking thing I do. But Project Blackbirds is kind of like a very high fantasy, not too high. It's like a fantasy Robin Hood retelling where Robin, who's the main character, she is a thief at night and she steals from the kingdom until she realizes that like her stealing is fruitless. And it's kind of set in a time where females, they're kind of degraded. Obviously, it's like kingdom-esque vibes. And yeah, there's like this magic system that kind of has been suppressed over the years through just like prejudice. And they kind of basically slaves like Robin and her people because they were kind of like previous magician people who used magic, and they were just kind of basically enslaved by the humans until basically that same magic kind of rebirths throughout the book, which is so interesting because I'm actually really interested in that fact that I kind of wanted this book to start off as just like a normal book, and it's kind of like there's a foreshadow, there's kind of like a feeling of like a magic system, but it's not present in the book until you get into it. But anyways, the whole plot is basically Robin steals the prince, and then she kind of leads a revolution, and then all this magic seems to get like burst, and all the while the world is literally breaking, and it's just like a crazy book. Like there's so many things, but my favorite thing is literally the fact that she steals the prince at the ball, and the prince literally just goes with her. Like she literally like chains him up, um and he just goes with her because why? Because he loves her. And Robin, as the main character, she is so blunt, so you can't get under her skin. But Kero, who's the prince, gets under her skin, makes her flustered, and it's like the cutest freaking thing. But that's Project Blackbirds, Project BB. So yeah, that's Project BB. Let's finally move on to draft 2. I'll try to go through these as quick as possible since these are books that I have talked about a lot as well. But we have Project Ghost. Project Ghost is a book that I'm currently querying actually. So this is draft 2, kind of draft 2 plus. So this book's probably in the 3rd draft stage. I definitely do want to kind of go over it once more. But I'm kind of querying, and querying doesn't really matter too much, if you have the book and you're just querying the idea. So yeah. But yeah, Project Ghost, I love so freaking much. It follows these 4 ghost boys who meet this human girl called Red in a very desolate ghost town, and it's a story that's basically about these characters rebelling and just vandalizing the town and stealing school buses and and breaking into candy stores and pranking the old man on the porch. Like this is like the funnest book. But of course, it's actually a lot more serious because I remember talking to Tiana the other day. I always talk to Tiana when I'm talking about. Anyways, I was talking to her about the book like when I was writing it, like during NaNoWriMo last year. And she was like, oh, that's such a sweet book, until she read it. And until I explained it to her. And she's like, oh, do your followers know that this book actually isn't as fun as it seems? I'm like, no, I don't think they do. So this book talks a lot about mental health, and I think mental health is like the darkest part of it. And yeah, I don't want to say too much about it because I hope to publish it soon. That's me wishing. I don't know if I'll ever publish this book because I have had a great time querying. So fun. Don't query. Like, save your sanity. Don't query your book. Just self-publish. Just self-publish. Anyways, I'll have more updates about Project Ghost and the querying process and everything like that. But something to share about Project Ghost is my favorite character, Ned. He's such a terrible person, as well as Red, the main character. They're all terrible people. They're all terrible characters, but I love them so freaking much. Okay, I love them. Anyways, let's move on to Project I First Met in the Graveyard. This book is the first book I ever wrote, and it basically follows these two characters who kind of bond over the death of one of their mothers, and it's so hard to describe, but it's such a wholesome book. And I do have a vlog where I finished this book, and it's a love story. It's literally a romance, and it has no historical, no like fantasy. It's just a contemporary romance, but it is not a contemporary romance in the sense like the Love Hypothesis. It's not like that. It's a very serious book about death and life and love and friendship. And I don't really know what else to say about this book. I definitely would love to talk about it more, but I definitely need to go right now. So I just heard the doorbell. I don't know if you heard that, but I'm sorry. I definitely want to talk more about my projects, but I think I spilled a lot in this video. So definitely let me know if you liked it. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoy the video. But I hope to see you guys soon. And yeah, definitely stay tuned for my next episodes. Anyways, I love you guys, and I'll see you guys later. Bye.